Hey there. So in this video, I'm going to talk about my song Mindcage, which was the second song that I finished this year. And it was good because I was in a little bit of a rut. I was working on this first song and I really liked it. It was this guitar part that I'd had forever that I really loved. And when I finally got around to orchestrating it all and recording it and getting it done, I was not happy with how it came up. Even like some of the fundamental things, like the melodies that I came up with, and I didn't like the mix, and so I was pretty. I have like these goals of how much content I wanted to create this year, how many songs I wanted to release, and that one took like a long time and it didn't come out well. So it made me feel a little bit down about my progress. Also, I was having a hard time mixing things, and it didn't work. So I gave myself a little bit of time off, and I regrouped, and I decided I would do something way different, write something way different than what I would normally write. And I decided to just go purely electronic besides my voice. And I had some inspiration. I was listening to these bands, Salt, Little Dragon, who were really cool, like a lot of space in their music, mostly electronic. Little Dragon has a drummer too, but a lot of space, a lot of electronic elements, and I was really feeling a lot of like, I don't know, I was really drawn to that music, and so I just decided to try something different. And what did I have to lose? But so most of my songs really start with like an acoustic guitar, but this one's a lot different. But anyway, so writing this one, and also, so I was thinking about a lot about AI at the time. This was during the latter point of the winter, and when you listen to the song, it's like, I'm trying to thematically, the things I was thinking about, I was trying to represent here in the song. And so there's like, when you listen to it, things are just a little bit off. There's a keyboard part in the first verse, which is slightly out of tune. The drum beat it's a heartbeat, but it's slightly off kilter. And there's this pull between 2 and 3, like a duple meter, triple meter. And you hear that throughout, like vocally, I sort of foundationally like land one, but then in the future I bring the other. So there's always this kind of pull there. There's this, like, the chord structure is kind of familiar but kind of off, and it's just sort of the kind of thing that it's how I feel about synthetic life in general. And then you'll hear in the third verse too, where I really solidify this triplet feel. I go through the kind of the pop culture timeline of when humans kind of started to think about AI, and I was thinking about, like, what's the fear here? And a lot of people think about the fear, it's Terminator or it's the Matrix. We're all going to be batteries for these machines, and I mean that might happen. I don't know, that might happen, but that's not really what I'm afraid. That's not what I'm afraid of. If I have any fear around this, it's not what I'm afraid of. It's and I actually don't even think that's the most likely outcome. I think there's an other more likely outcome, and that is that AI could just change the internet, and so we wouldn't actually have to be imprisoned in a matrix. Like, our universe could just become the matrix, because if AI can just change the internet, change Wikipedia, create influencers, these fake influencers, and like change it or create a narrative, then it would be hard for us to know what was true and what was not. And that's the thing. So we would be in the matrix, but not like plugged in as a battery. So it's like a lot simpler than some sort of, controlling the nukes, then nuclear Armageddon, and then we're batteries. It's a lot simpler than that. Anyway, so that's the stuff that I was reflecting on when I made this, and that's what the world would sort of look like. It would just look like a little off. It would be the narrative would be a little bit different than what's true, and that would be enough to really change a lot of outcomes. And so I wanted to really portray that in the song. So the heartbeat is really the soul of the song. It's this drum beat, and it's this sort of awakening life. But it's a little jagged. It's a little weird. It's a little too perfect in ways too, and I don't know. It sort of creates this tension throughout. And anyway, that's what music a lot of times is about. It's like creating tension and then creating release of that tension. And so I don't know if you ever get the release of that tension here, but anyway, it's a cool song. I'm just gonna play a first couple verses here, and then I'll take you through a couple things. But here it is. All right, so that's the intro and the first couple verses. So you hear in that intro, it's just basically that kit, and it's a little bit strange. And then you hit as soon as like the vocals come in and everything sort of kicks in. There's a lot of space in the song. In the beginning, it's really just the kit, bass, my voice, and this odd keyboard. And this part was a little bit more in depth than that I had originally. And I edited some of it out, like you can see here. This is the keyboard that's going on in the first verses. There's not a lot of notes here, but I chopped it down because the keyboard is out of tune. Here, like listen to what this sounds like. And here, like this resolution here. It's like it's sour as shit, but I really liked it. But it was a much more in-depth keyboard part. But it was too much out of tune, and I had to chop it off. But I feel like it after I was able to just like really pare it down, it made a lot more sense in the mix, and it was just a little bit off, but not so far off where you're like, oh, this is trash. The other thing is like the bass is real. I have a stacked bass situation here with this like buzzsaw. It's very machine. Here it is. And sort of dips down in pitch there, but also is this nice big buzzsaw. So more sort of machine elements and feel there. The other thing is this. Let me see if I can get to it. Oh yeah, here it is. The other thing is the chord progression is it's like a little bit strange. You have another element where I'm sort of replacing what should be a minor chord in the key with a major chord. So I'm going C sharp minor, and in that key you wouldn't hit F sharp major normally. It would normally be a minor chord. It's not that far, like people do that, but to go, minor 1 to major 4, that definitely happens. But then when you come back with what should be a major chord in that scale, which is A major, it makes it a little bit strange. And then the end of that is like it just moves this like half step to this A to. All I do is I make that A one half step higher, and it creates this sort of dissonant chord. Of course, the bass is doing a F sharp on the bottom. So it creates this F sharp dominant chord. So it's like this. It's a comfortable resolution in some ways. You hear dominant sevens back to like the tonic of the key, but it's a little strange sort of how we get there. And that actually came from when I was originally thinking about this idea, it came from I was just playing around on my guitar, and this is going to sound ridiculous, but this is like my beginning idea that I'd recorded, and it's just like me singing syllables, so it's kind of dumb. But you'll hear the chord progression as it stands when I originally thought about it. Make your heart cry. Yeah, so I was just playing around with that slightly off chord progression and trying to think of what a melody would work. What melody would work over that, and that's what I came up with. I know it sounds ridiculous, but then when I was thinking about AI, this AI theme and like the drum beat, and I was like, I wonder if that chordal progression would fit over this beat and this idea, because it's sort of, they both are a little bit clunky together. But I couldn't do it. It wouldn't make sense doing it with guitar like that. It would make sense to sort of orchestrate it with keys and maybe make them a bit more sparse. So that's how it kind of all fit together. But then and then there's this other sort of weirdness where I mentioned before, like this beat, bunt got. It's like it could have this triplet feel, like dun 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 dun. You hear that in the intro with the keyboard. It has a ping pong nature to it that's going in that triplet feel. But as soon as I start singing, I'm definitely, they're long extended notes, but it's definitely a duple feel. It's a two feel. But I really solidify that. I really wanted to anchor that in to make it feel like it's a little bit more solid ground. Like maybe there's something uplifting at the end of this. Anyway, in the second verse, so I get rid of the out of tune keyboard. I put instead a Rhodes sound, and there are these nice, like, pretty Rhodes chords. It's a little affected and strange, but feels pretty grounding. And then I ground that duple meter with this second snare drum that hits on 4. And it gives us this backbeat that gives you just a more solid foundation. So that whole section is just a more solid ground because of those elements. So this is kind of what happens. Here's the keys. It started and here's that's the snare. So it's like, it's just much more grounded in there. But I wanted to do that to set it up for the third verse, I'm like, no, here's some triplets for you. So I'll play that for you next, and then we'll get into the chorus. But here is in the third verse, you hear this. Then I go strong triplet here with my voice. Except in the beginning of it, I'm only singing 2 notes, so there's still this interplay. It's a triplet feel, dun 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 dun. But I go between 2 notes instead of 3, and then by the end I'm in 3 notes. So it really solidifies that triplet. But there's also this huge pipe organ behind the mix. So again, I changed the keyboard up. I went from out of tune to very stable to this like gothic, almost vampire organ there, because you're trying to set up thematically, like, well, maybe things aren't going to be okay. But here's the third chorus, and it's just, there's no harmonies. There's harmonies in the other 2, but it's just me, just one voice. Here it is. Now that's a chorus. Here it is. Fiction or depiction began in the 50s with Brainiac, and then Ultron the decade after, when Hal faced extinction and started to fight back. Imagine the damage if he had an arsenal. It would be Skynet, and the only question is whether we would nuke ourselves, and if the winter would stop the machines in their tracks, block out the sun, buy us a little bit of time for a comeback. No, why would it take on that risk when the simple solution Yeah, so I wanted to make every verse a little bit different, and this one is more because the other ones are the other verses with the vocals are just these like big chords, these big harmonies. I wanted to make sure that it was just a single voice. Although I do make it a little bit different this is not the final version. The final version I have like a little bit of a call and response where part of the verse is coming at you a little bit in the left ear, and then the response is in the right ear, and it passes back and forth. This one is actually sweeping left to right. That started to annoy me, so I didn't end up doing that in the final. So if you listen to it on Spotify or something, you'll hear it just sort of pegged, but just passing back and forth from one to the other. But I also changed up the chordal progression a little bit, and I just to give it a little bit of I wanted to propel it into this last chorus here. So the chords at the end, and with that gothic, big cathedral vampire organ, it changes up a little bit. So it kind of moves us into the chorus in a different way. Then so I haven't talked about the chorus yet. So the chorus is also another scenario where it's almost like very much a pop tune in the chordal progression. It goes from C sharp minor to F sharp major again, which happens in the verse, but it just goes back and forth. And that would be like a pretty grounding chord progression, except the bass I have move in a weird way, and it sort of outlines a different chordal structure in between the two. So if you listen to what's happening at the bottom end, it does make it a little bit funky. But the other thing that's happening in this chorus is you'll also hear this is not a traditional chorus, because normally a chorus would have some sort of hook. And I wonder sort of what the hook is in this chorus, because I've got this endless battle, the endless battle is happening on the left, is like hard pan left and hard pan right, like this voice in your ear. It's almost like a migraine that's pumping at you. And but is that the hook in the chorus? Is that what we should be singing? If you're listening to it, bopping your head. Or I have a response to that. Like I have another voice saying, "You wage," and like other stuff happening in there. Is that the hook? Like what's the hook? I don't know. Or it could be this Oshima, which is this sample instrument here. I'll play it for you so you can hear it before you hear it in the chorus. Here it is. Kind of creepy, but major until the end of the phrase with the half step here. Like kind of creepy. So is that the hook? Kind of. It's definitely very prominent in there, and there's so much space in this chorus because you just have that chant in the background, the back of your mind, but then there's no other real lead vocals throughout. So I don't know, but here is the chorus. Weird bass. Cut up machine voice. So you hear that like computerized voice, which is just I vocoded myself and what did I do? Yeah, I used the Vocal Synth Pro, which is by Isotope, I believe. Is that what I used? Yeah, and this like auto filter on my voice. You can see my plugin stack down below. I did a bunch of stuff to it, but then I also cut it up so it'd be really jagged. So this is happening in the background of just this end chorus. And this one over here is kind of cool too, like rhythmic. This probably won't show. Yeah, this one's kind of cool rhythmically. And in context, here it is. wanted to give it that little extra computer towards the end. But basically that's it. Those are like some of the elements of the song and how I put it together and why I wrote the things that I wrote. So hope you enjoy the song and also a little insight into how it was made. Thanks, see ya.
Agent, you pegged it to the dollar, you're ready.